What up, folks? This is your boy Dino, aka your Solid Five,
And Bay Area Creep, Creeping the Rail, and
and
we
we
are
are the
the
Crew
New Crew.
Crew. So we have a fantastic guest today. We got Sean Cameron Michael. You've seen him
Welcome
in
to
a
the
ton of things.
podcast.
Welcome.
Hey guys,
Welcome. Glad to have you here.
thank
Very
you.
excited.
So, what do you want to jump
Let's
into?
yeah. So let's fire it off with just what inspired you to start acting?
Oh
I know it's an
wow.
early age. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started acting professionally when I was like 12 years old. So that's I don't know, it's like f 4 decades ago.
Yeah.
My parents were involved in the arts. My mom was a ballroom dancer, and my
Mm.
dad was an opera singer. And
Wow.
so yeah, I was kind of surrounded by those sort of theatrical types
Right.
when I was a kid. And then I did my first stage musical when I was, yeah, 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Um, and it was like an amateur production, so like we never got paid a cent to do it.
Right.
But it was really a cool experience. It was a musical called The Magical Mystery Man.
Hmm.
And we then also turned that into like a radio serial, and we recorded an LP back in the day. And then yeah, basically started doing musical theater throughout my teens. And when I finished school, um, also studied sort of part-time with a drama teacher when I was in school. And
Oh.
then basically, yeah, when I finished school, got a job working at a telecommunications company, sitting behind a desk.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I want to be an actor. This is what I want to do. And I sold everything and moved from Cape Town, South Africa, to Johannesburg, which was sort of the hub of TV and film in South
Right.
Africa in the 80s. And yeah, I arrived in Johannesburg, and I went to a studio called Toron Studios, where they were shooting a soap opera called Igoli, Place of Gold. And I basically went to go speak to the casting director over there, and I was like, "Hey, I want to be in your soapy. I'm an actor from Cape Town." And they were like, "Well, what are you going to do if you if you don't get a job? You know, how are you going to survive?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'll be a waiter or whatever." And they were like, "Okay, well, there's a part going in our show. Can you start Monday?" And I was like, "Okay, cool." And that's kind of how it started.
So a couple questions, yeah, even like I asked this about to everybody about theater experiences.
Yeah.
So you said you did it into your teens, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any like kind of like horror stories from stage where you're just like, oh shit, like somebody fell off stage or something, or like something
Oh
crazy?
my God, like so many. I mean, I remember the first professional production besides Magical Mystery Man was a musical called The King and I.
Mhm.
And in The King and I mean, I was 13 years old at the time, and I was playing, a principal role in it. And in The King and I, you got the king, and then you got the teacher Anna, and I was playing her son Louis. And so I had like my own solo with a live orchestra. We ran for like 3 months in an opera house in Cape Town.
Oh wow.
But what happened throughout the rehearsal period, we had sort of rehearsed. Where there's a scene where my mother Anna sort of opens up a map of the world, and she goes, "This is where we're from. We're from England." And she says, "There, Louis," and she points to a map. But when it came to opening night, so we've got a full theater. It's opening
Of
night, big
course.
expectations. Everybody's like nervous and excited. And just before I'm about to walk on the stage, the stage manager comes to me and says, "Sean, you know the little map that we used in the rehearsal room? This is going to be a big map. You actually have to pull it down like with a little rope or whatever, and it'll
Right.
be a big map." So when it got to that scene, my mother, Anna, pulls down the map and she goes, "Come on, Louis, show everybody where London is." And I look at this map and I'm like, "What the fuck?" I never said like what the fuck, and I'm like trying to find it. And she like grabs my hand and she goes, "There it is." And so that was like embarrassing as hell. But so many fun and silly theater experiences,
Yeah.
because that's the magic of theater, is that the minute you step your foot on that stage, anything can happen. You're in
Right.
that moment. And so that, that's the big thing. Obviously, the big difference between, camera or TV and film work to theater is, with camera work, you can go for another take, do another 1,000 takes.
Right.
So that's very, very exciting. Obviously, doing theater work, just because the your energy level and your adrenaline's pumping, and it's amazing. And but over the years, I haven't really had the or been fortunate enough to do a lot of theater work, because as always, it just doesn't pay a lot of money. There's no money.
Yeah.
You do
Right.
theater for the love of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Theater always like terrified me. I don't know. There's like something about it where I don't mind being in front of people, but it's like,
Yeah.
but knowing that you can just butcher it and just like and just eat shit, when you're on stage, I'm like, man, that's like the fear, you know. I don't know. It's
Oh
just
yeah, I mean, oh yeah, I mean, my classic fuck up doing live theater was I was asked to do a live cabaret show, which was celebrating the music of the '60s, and they had previously hired somebody to be, the second lead vocalist with a live band. And whoever they hired basically pulled out the last minute for whatever reason. And I got this phone call, and they were like, "Sean, do you want to, we open in 2 weeks. Can you learn like 30 songs in 2 weeks from the '60s?" And I was like, "Sure." Anyway, so we went into like a crazy sort of 2 week rehearsal period, and opening night, all the press was there, and the whole show was going great. The music was incredible. It was everything from David Bowie's, Space Oddity to Pinball Wizard. I mean, it was all the classics, right?
Yeah.
And it got to the last song, and the last song was My Way, right? And I don't know if you've ever read the lyrics of My Way. My Way is a really, really long song. There's something like, I don't know, like 5 verses or something. And
Yeah.
what happened as the song started, as the music started, and I started singing, and now the end is near, what happened was the entire audience started singing with me. And in that moment, I was like, okay, fuck Sean, don't mess up the words. And the minute that thought went into my head, I blanked. I blanked out. I blanked. I made it to the chorus, and then when I got to the second verse, it was gone, and I stopped the band, and I actually went up like to the musical director who was in keyboards, and I was like, "Come on, Michelle," and she was like looking at me, and we started again and started again. It was the audience was like laughing. It was embarrassing as hell, and eventually I just turned to the audience and I was like, well, clearly nobody can do it like All Blue Eyes or whatever. And the audience applauded. They went crazy. They thought it was like part of the show.
oh wow.
But yeah, I literally, after we sort of took, did our curtain call or whatever, I went back to my dressing room and like burst into tears. I was like hiding under my dressing room table, and the director came into the dressing room and he was like, "What the fuck was that?" And that was 2 weeks of rehearsal. But
Yeah.
trust
Yeah.
me, it'll never fucking happen again. And it didn't. And it was cool. But it's, it's those experiences that, it just makes you stronger.
Right,
But
right.
that's
Yeah.
the joy of live theater. So yeah, you justified in being nervous or scared about live theater. It can be brutal, but at the same time, just so incredibly fulfilling. My God.
Yeah.
And then so post school theater, um
Hmm.
I I cheated and went on Wikipedia. But so you had to go on, so in South Africa, are you oblig or do you have to go into the part of the military, or is that what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, in South Africa, conscription, 2 years conscription was,
Okay.
compulsory, mandatory. You didn't have a choice.
Right.
So when you finished high school, you had the choice of you could either join the police force or you could go to the army, for 2 years. And then for the rest of your life, each year you had to do like camps, in the army all over the country. Um, Excuse me. So back in '88, when I finished school, and I really didn't want to go to the army because I was like, my God, I'm an actor, I'm a singer, this is what I want to do, and now
Mhm.
I'm being forced, to go to the army, and that was in the days of apartheid or apartheid.
Oh, right, right.
That there was hardcore days of South African politics, and at that stage, there was sanctions against South Africa. It was a really hardcore time, and yeah, so I mean, I ended up in a place called Potchefstroom, um, back in the 80s, up north that I'd never ever been to, with a bunch of corporals and lieutenants and sergeant majors. No offense, South African Defense Force, but these guys were a bunch of psychologically disturbed racists.
Mm.
No offense, but that was my experience.
Yeah.
And for somebody coming from a theater background, coming from such a democratic, open lifestyle, being forced to do Tier's army and having this um, bullshit racist dogma crap sort of thrown at me was
Yeah,
really hard for me. Because I just kept fighting back the whole time.
right.
So
Yeah.
I was getting, in South Africa, you call it an opfok, which is basically where the corporals and the lieutenants basically, God, this sounds this sounds really heavy for a podcast, but basically where you essentially are being like kind of beaten up and
Okay.
forced to break you down so that
Yeah.
they can sort of train you and build you up. But luckily, after my basic training in infantry,
Yeah.
I was then sent back to Cape Town and ended up being a chef in the army
Mm.
for the rest of my 2 years, which was actually awesome. When I actually finished and also what happened in my second year of military service, it was the same year that conscription actually came to an end. So,
Oh, wow.
so had I waited 2 years, I wouldn't have had to go
Oh,
to the army and experience that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things in life, I mean, I can look back now and I go, well, I've played soldiers, I've played military characters, and so I've made use of that and a lot, and also because the most of my career I've sort of played baddies and psychopaths and really weird, messed up characters, and so
yeah.
I used a lot of those army experiences and characters that I came across, as character reference. So. I suppose what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So yeah, but yeah, so that was Tia's conscription. Crazy times.
So I have a friend, I don't talk to him as much anymore because he lives in Norway. He's from Norway, but
Okay.
he had right after high school he had to go enlist as well. Like
Oh wow.
he went straight over to I'm pretty sure it was just the army or their army.
Yeah.
So he had to do 2 years also, and he fucking hated it. He was like he didn't want to go. He was just like forced into going, and then he did it, and then came back with his family to United States for you know how I think a year, and then he went back. So, but cool guy. It was just so strange to know that like you were forced to go. Like you had to. There was no choice.
Yeah, I mean that was exactly it. I mean, a lot of people who just couldn't face, joining the police force or the army, basically jumped in a plane and ran away, left the country and never came back. If they came back,
Uh,
they would have been thrown in jail.
right.
So yeah, it was I don't know. I mean, I suppose it depends on the country. And there's some things, if I think back, it did teach you to be, an independent, strong man, to cook for yourself and iron clothing and take care of yourself. And I was actually a changed person when I came out of the army. Maybe, because as a teenager growing up and, being in the theater, and maybe I was a little bit soft or theatrical or whatever. And so
Yeah.
I was a little bit of a nerd or I don't know. But when I came out the army, I was quite a tough guy. By the time, the army had actually made me a strong guy. So
Yeah.
before, if I was walking down the street and some big dude came walking along, I'd probably cross to the other side of the street. But by the time I came out the army, I was like, "Okay, let's go." You know. So in
That's so
one
funny.
way, yeah. In one way, well, I mean, I've always like sort of, looked at life, what can I learn from this experience? How can this make me stronger, or what can I learn from it? So, but yeah, but I think there's still quite a number of countries that still have conscription.
I
Um,
imagine so, yeah.
wasn't America at some point? Wasn't there some rumor at some point that they were gonna make it compulsory at some point?
Yeah, there was talks, but you know, luckily they pushed back,
It never happened.
yeah, it never happened.
They were gonna
It's
start the
usually because
jab.
of war. Usually it's because of war, it's like or they're planning to go to war, so they want to enlist as many people as they can. So,
Yeah.
um, but luckily we dodged that bullet. Well, I'm too old anyway to do it, like so doesn't affect me. But if like somebody like my son or my brother, like they would have to go. So
Yeah.
speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
Mm. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, the big thing about, if I was fortunate as a child, growing up, I knew I wanted to be an actor and a singer and a writer. I knew that I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a creative, artistic person. And so that was clear for me, from a young age. And so to, being forced into conscription, being forced to believe certain things about politics, about apartheid South Africa, which just went against every sort of fabric of my soul, of my being.
Right.
That was the hardest part of it. Um, but I mean, ultimately, in '94, South Africa became like one of the strongest democracies in the world, where gay marriage was legalized. We have one of the strongest democracies in the world now. And so, yeah, I
That's
suppose
so
there
crazy
is.
because it took America so long just to even do like gay marriage and stuff like that. Like it's so crazy how long it took us to like kind of follow those kind of steps. But no, we're getting there.
Yeah, it's very interesting for me, over the past sort of 11 years, sort of spending half the time in Los Angeles and half the time in Cape Town, South Africa. It's sort of very interesting for me to, I'm not a very political or religious person. I'm
Right.
more of a spiritual person. When I say spiritual, people go, "Oh my God, are you a ghost?" No, but I'm more of a spiritual person, and I don't really align to sort of any political parties or any
Right.
stuff like that. But what I found really interesting in the sort of past 11 years spending time in the States, and I know obviously, Los Angeles isn't reflective of the United States. It's
Right.
one part, it's one state, or it's one part of it. And so that's
Yeah.
not a true reflection of America. But what I did find interesting, a big comparison for me, but let's say compared in South Africa and the United States. In South Africa, because of our, very, very strong democracy, South Africans, we generally, by law, have to accept one another and do respect one another by law. In South Africa, you can't be racist. You'll be arrested and thrown in jail. You can't
Uh,
be homophobic. You can't judge somebody based on their religion, based on their political views. And so South Africans generally, we'll get together and we'll have a braai or a barbecue. And when it comes to, every couple of years, when it comes to time of voting or whatever, everybody go, "Oh, so did you vote?" Yeah. And nobody will ever ask you who you voted for. Nobody gives a damn. That's your personal choice. What
Yeah.
right.
church you go to, whatever your religious affiliation is, who you voted for, people don't judge you according to that in South Africa. I'm not saying that there aren't people that will judge you, but the majority of people just don't judge you based on your politics or your religion. Whereas what I found very strange in the States is like sort of like Democrats hated Republicans or
Yeah.
vice versa. Like, so if your close friends are Democrats and you meet somebody and they're Republican, you might not be friends with them, or you won't invite them. Is it as hardcore as that? Is there such a strong division?
Yeah. For sure. It's like I mean, like you, I don't really align myself left or right, or
Yeah,
Democrat, Republican. I have my own set of beliefs, so
yeah,
um, and and sometimes they both align, or they align on both sides, at some point. But
yeah,
um, I'm a very like free person, and I believe in everybody has the right to live their life, So that's just kinda
yeah,
how I roll every day. But
yeah,
there's a lot of people that I know that are just so concrete, like, no, that's just against God, or that's against, the foundation of humanity, and well, all this stuff. And I'm
Those are
like, is it
Catholic.
though? Yeah, I'm like, is it though? So, yeah, it is pretty divisive there, unfortunately. But a lot of us do try to, find common ground and get along and stuff like that. But it can be difficult at times, you know.
yeah. I think the entertainment industry or the arts is the one industry, is the one industry, is the one lifestyle where we are taught, where we live a life and a career and a yeah, just a way of life where we don't judge, or we try not to judge one another, and that politics and religion shouldn't come into place, shouldn't come into play.
Right,
As I mean, I believe as artists, we reflect society. We reflect what's happening in politics, or happening in religion, or happening around the world, and we're as artists, it's our job to reflect that and speak to that, but not necessarily pick sides. I don't know. I I think I'm maybe like a lot like you guys in the way that I kind of live in my own imaginary world.
Yeah.
I choose for my own peace and happiness and sanity to not be a part of like mainstream media. I don't watch the news. I choose when I want to watch the news,
right,
or
right.
I get most of my information from talk show hosts. That's where I get my news from. But I just don't want to be a part of that mess. The whole world is such a crazy mess right now,
Yeah,
and so and I hate it. Yes, I mean social media is really awesome in the way that we can connect with other artists and from
right.
with people around the world. But just this sort of you know, people are going to hate you. People are going to
Oh yeah.
force you to try and have an opinion and stand for something. And I stand for freedom. I stand for peace and love
Hmm.
and happiness and compassion for one another. And so, yeah, it's
I
mad.
was actually going to backtrack a little bit to
Yeah.
post army, and I saw that you were credited on Ernest in the Army. Um, so I want to know, like, if you have any memories of like being on set with him, and if he was like just as quick, like, because I know he was a very animated character on screen. But was he like off takes where he was just kind of like downtime? If you have any memories of that, of him just being like kind of floating around waiting.
Jim Varney, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was one of my first movies that I ever did. Wow, I actually forgot about that. I had this really, really funny scene with him where I was playing a guy in the army where
Mhm.
he was playing a chef in the army, and he had and the scene was he had given me a piece of he had put a plate of food in front of me, which was a piece of steak, and I had to take like a knife and fork and try and cut through the steak. And
Yeah.
they had done like a special effect in it. So as I was trying to cut through this really tough steak, I sort of lifted up my knife and fork, and it had melted off, and there was like
Oh,
fumes coming from it. And it was really funny as fuck. And Jim Varney, in between takes, was so funny. He was so funny. He was so down to earth. He was
mm,
so excited to be filming in Cape Town in South Africa. He was such a lovely guy, and really sort of improving and having fun and making each take. As South Africans, we didn't really know about Ernest and all the movies. We didn't really
right, right.
understand the history because we didn't realize, what a great, integral part of American culture
Hmm.
it was. But my experience of him, I mean, I was only on set for like 2 days. But yeah, he was really the most down to earth, funniest, decent human being, and really, really funny and sweet. And everybody loved him.
That's
And
so cool.
yeah, yeah, I mean, one thing that I actually learned recently, and every now and again when I've done indie movies and I've had the opportunity to play a lead in something, somebody said to me, Sean, when the lead actor walks onto set, he sets the tone for the rest of the movie, for the
Right.
rest of the cast, and for the rest of the crew. And so your cast or your actor, I always thought that it was the director. And obviously the director does set the tone and he does set the feeling and the vibe. But certainly, I mean that actually happened on Street Trash, where with our first night of shooting Street Trash, I walked into none of us we were all kind of like sort of we were sort of like kind of figuring out what are we doing here? How are we going to do this? We're shooting on film. We can only
Yeah.
do one or two takes. We were doing rehearsals, and we were shooting one of the climatic scenes of the movie. Spoiler, where like my best buddy dies,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Chef, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when we shot that scene, I mean, Joe Vaz, who passed away this year.
Uh,
Um, Joe Vaz, so he plays my best buddy in the movie, and Joe and I have known each other or knew each other for 30 years.
oh shit.
We started off doing theater together, 30 years ago.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so, and I'm a dramatic character actor. That's really what I do. And
Right.
so in that scene when Chef dies in my arms, and I'm crying, th that shit was real. But in that moment, suddenly, um, Fabian, who was on camera and all our crew, the minute I started crying and there was just like snot and tears running down my face,
Yeah.
even though I'm acting with a dummy and there's blue blood, green blood flying all over the place, I was in tears. I was like really losing my shit, shaking,
Yeah.
and there was just this silence on set. And in that moment, everybody was like, "Oh fuck, we're making a movie. This is real shit. We're in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Let's go." And it's such a crazy movie. But sorry, what was the question?
No, I love that scene too because like who was it? One of the other characters is like trying to put his head back on.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's
All
like,
the
It,
no,
it
fun.
was
no,
it was such a funny moment. We just weren't sure in that moment. Obviously, Ryan Kruger, writer, director,
yeah,
producer, had decided, he knew that one of the lead characters had to die
right,
at some point in the movie. We needed that to happen for all the other characters' arcs and the storyline and everything to really give them the boost to, fight back, and
right.
somebody had to die.
That's how I
And
read it. Yeah.
but the way it was played, with his head blowing off, blowing off and shooting up, and we were all trying to catch it, and then the character of
Hot
Puppy sort
potato.
of trying to glue
Yeah.
it back together and trying to resuscitate him. It's like so fucking stupid, and it's like, and we weren't sure. Because it's very challenging, comedically, it's very, very challenging for an audience. Because one part of you is laughing your head off, and the other part is like, whoa, we actually loved this character. We cared
Yeah.
about this character. So it's been very interesting watching the movie, with live audiences and seeing their reaction to those scenes. And it's also been really interesting with Street Trash, seeing how, the movie premiered at Quentin Tarantino's theater, New Beverly,
Oh
in
shit.
Los Angeles,
Oh
in
yeah.
October last year. And like, what we didn't know that apparently, like, Quentin gets to choose, Mr. Tarantino gets to choose which movies actually screen at New Beverly, and he had chosen Street Trash to
Wow.
screen there, because it was shot in film, and obviously, it was a sort of a remake or a
Yeah.
reimagining of the '87 cult
I
classic or
kept seeing that
whatever.
it's a sequel.
Yeah, yeah, it is a loose sequel. I know it's if you speak to Mr. Kruger, he kind of doesn't like to call it a sequel,
Okay.
because he has so much respect for the original.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, when Ryan originally approached me, I'm sure this is going to be one of your questions, but when Ryan approached me and said, I've been asked to direct the new Street Trash. And I was like, "What's that?" And he was like, "It's one of my favorite movies from the '80s, and you have to watch it." And I'm like, where do I find it? And so I got to watch the original Street
I
Trash.
didn't get to watch it yet. Yeah.
Haven't you watched it?
No, I've only watched your guys' version of it, but I want
Oh,
to. It's there on my list.
wow. Yeah, I mean they released like a Blu-ray, like a double Blu-ray of the original and the new Street
Okay.
Trash in a two pack, or in a double pack. The original Street Trash is the original Street Trash was originally made as different kind of skits or short films, if you like, which was eventually
Okay.
kind of like put together loosely and turned into a film, a feature
Okay.
film. Um, the gore and the in-camera effects are through the roof, amazing and incredible. As a melt movie.
Yeah.
Um, however, being 1987, there's some subject matter in that movie that is really controversial and that is really out there.
Yeah.
Um, that you would have great difficulty replicating or doing that kind of stuff in a movie today. And
Okay.
so, yeah, when I watched the original movie, and Ryan was remaking this, I was like, how do you remake this movie? How do you do a sequel to it? How do you? And his only way to do that, because basically the producers and Screambox had said, look, we still have the rights to this movie, so we'd like, and because they had seen Ryan's previous movie, Fried Barry,
Oh
which
yeah.
was like so crazy and
Yeah.
over the top, that's the reason they had approached him to do Street Trash, was based on Fried Barry.
Okay.
And so he said, okay, well, he loved the original Street Trash, and so he's going to write his version, set it in Cape Town, South Africa, make the year 2050. And so that yeah, I mean, if you watch the original and you watch the 2024 version, there are similarities between the two. It's also a bunch of homeless people who's sort of fighting back against, the government or whatever. And it's kind of ironic how relevant it actually is
Yeah.
today with with what's going on in politics and the 1%,
Yeah.
rich and wealthy, and how society should be fighting back or is fighting back. So it's kind of weird how relevant it actually is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
So real quick, I was actually gonna I found a clip on like I think like Facebook Reels or something like that, and it was actually a
Mm,
news like a well, maybe not news, it was like a morning show or something like that, or one of
mm.
those like sit down like three people talking or whatever,
Yeah.
and so there was like three people talking, and two of them were kind of going pitter patter back and forth, and so like they were like, oh, it's the homeless people's problem. It's like they don't want the help, blah blah blah, and then one guy goes, why don't you just kill them? And I was like, I got this.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
I want to send this to, just send this to the man. I couldn't I lost the link, and I was like, yeah, that should, it was so perfect. You would have loved it because it would have been like right up that alley of street trash and like exactly what you guys were talking about in that film.
Yeah, it's
Wild.
so
Like
weird.
yeah,
And I mean, exactly, and especially with what's been going on in the States now with ICE and and also with the attack on the people who are homeless or
yeah,
transient. The fact that Trump does want to get these people off the streets, either put them in shelters and or what, throw them in jail, or I mean, like it's absurd. It's crazy.
yeah. What I've
But
been seeing is like because I came from well, I lived in Santa Cruz, which is like only about I don't know, 25. It's like about 20 miles away from San Jose, on
hmm,
more on the coastline. And so over there, all they do is move the homeless from one side of town to the other, and then they clean up
yeah,
that side, and then eventually they'll move them back again, and just kind of, they just kind of like keep sweeping under the rug, essentially, and just keep pushing all the, that's literally all they do, especially in California. They just keep pushing the homeless like from one end to the other, and then they come back, and it's just we don't know what to do. It's just wild.
it's a yeah. I mean, obviously in South Africa, the underprivileged or homeless, we have millions of people. We've got one of the biggest townships which is essentially, shanty town shacks where we have millions of people living, Soweto. Um, and yeah, it's a serious, it's a major problem in South Africa and obviously all over the world.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and especially with a country like South Africa, with our apartheid and our democracy, with the ANC that's been in government to try and have affirmative action, try and sort of correct the wrongs from the past. They have been actively trying to do that, but 30 years later, you kind of look and you go, well, what's changed?
right, right, yeah,
What's changed? Just look at millions of homeless people. People are starving. People are really suffering. And that was my sort of big thing about the States, about homelessness was, I'd be asking, I'd be walking around Los Angeles, and I spend most of my time sort of living in Los Feliz. I loved Los Feliz just because it was like sort of bohemian, and I loved the energy of Los Feliz. But I would continually be asking people, but what about the homeless people? What's going on in the city, especially if you go to Venice Beach, and it can be pretty intense.
yeah,
And then people kept on saying to me, "Oh yeah, yeah, they choose to be homeless. They choose to be closer to the beach, or they choose to be under the radar, or they choose." And I'm sure that some people do choose that,
yeah,
but not the majority. When you're seeing these war veterans, suffering from PTSD on the streets, and funding has been stopped, and it's really a mess. Yeah, globally.
yeah.
It's a problem, and so yeah. I mean, I don't know if Street Trash is the right movie to sort of wake people up about the homeless
No,
situation
but
in the States
it's
or the world. I've actually got another movie that they're busy working on, called Broken Brothers, which is about four four American Army veterans who suffer from PTSD, who are homeless, and that's a movie that we also trying to get off the ground,
yeah,
because that really does sort of go into what we talking about.
right. So I know we got into the whole serious stuff, but like, I kind of wanted to know about a couple of the projects that you've, kind of been on. I mean, you've been on so many. It's like it's hard to just narrow down, any questions. But um, how was it being on Black Sails? Because I know like that was at least it felt like a really big production, as far as
Oh
like because
yeah.
it's being a TV show and like everything about it was just so grand to me. Like from when I was watching it, I was like, because I know you've done it all. You've done you did big productions. You've done like more independent stuff and whatever. But like,
Yeah.
how do you like feel about working on like bigger productions like that? Because it's just so much more, and like there's more crew, there's more everything, and
Oh
it's like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, Black Sails was an amazing opportunity or experience for me. I mean, we shot that 12 started shooting that 12 years ago. Yeah, I think it's like 12 years ago. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Michael Bay, it was the first time that he was producing something for TV.
hmm,
And he kind of had to like sort of hand pick his 12 series regulars. And I originally auditioned for the lead character of like Captain Flint. I mean, we all got to audition for the part of Captain Flint.
right,
But we knew that they were casting in the States and Australia and in the UK and also in South Africa. And so when I originally got to audition for Black Sails, we auditioned for it, but we kind of knew we were not going to get the role. They were going to try and find a name or try and find somebody somewhere else in the world. But then what I did is being the I was going to say arrogant, but being the go-getter that I am, I actually sent an email um, to the casting director at Stars, and said, "Look, I've auditioned in Cape Town, South Africa for Black Sails, and I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity. And here's my resume and my reel. I'd love to be a part of it." And about a week later, I got a phone call from the South African casting director and was like, the American casting director wants you to go on tape for one of the series' regular roles
Oh, wow.
of Richard Guthrie, who's like the governor of like the Bahamas or whatever of
Yeah.
New Province, yeah, and New Providence. And yeah, I went on tape, and 2 weeks later, I booked the role. And so that was like, so Black Sails was like 2 years of my life. It was a very, very big production. Our costumes were all handmade.
Wow.
Um, you know, um, the materials and everything coming in from all over the world. Some of the best designers. It was full on. I don't know what the budget was, but it was insane. They basically sort of took over Cape Town Film Studios. They built, life-size pirate ships. They built
Mhm.
some of the biggest water tanks in the world.
Wow.
Walking, we had so it was real boats. Obviously, there was a lot of green screen and a lot of visual effect and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, there was very little acting involved because you would be walking on a ship or you would be walking in the Bahamas. The attention to detail was insane. It was certainly it was certainly the job. I mean, I'd done things like 24,
Right.
and worked on some pretty cool shows before that were also shot in South Africa. But Black Sails as a series regular was a big deal for me. It was because of Black Sails that I was able to apply for my green card for like the EB1. And so when I finished shooting season one, I then went to the States, got an agent over there, and then went back to Cape Town, shot season two of Black Sails, and that kind of started my American journey as a SAG actor. So yeah, Black Sails was a really really cool experience. But also at the same, to answer your question, and I actually did remember it. The big difference is when you're working on a big production. There's a lot of money, but there's a lot of chiefs,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, and look, I will always be incredibly thankful to Michael Bay and the stars and all the guys, for giving me the opportunity to work on Black Sails. But it was a big production. And I mean, I remember like, my first day on set, where Neil Marshall, who directed The Descent, he actually
Oh,
directed
okay.
the first the
Wow.
first episode of Black Sails,
That's so cool.
and Neil, we were like sort of rehearsing the scene. I had something like a 6-page monologue or something really exciting, and we like sort of went for a take, and then Neil came to me and gave me one or two notes, and then one or two of the writers then came on to set and then spoke to the director, and then the director came back to me and they gave me some notes,
Yeah.
and this kind of went on and on and on and on, and I was like, but I'm here, come talk to me. But there's like sort of protocol. You don't really, the writers and the producers don't really talk directly, with the actor. They have to go like sort of via the director.
Yeah.
um, so did we lose Nicky T?
Maybe, but we'll just keep
Was
talking
I
if he
was
wants.
I boring him?
No, no, he probably had to use the restroom. I don't know. It's okay.
Yeah, so Black Sails was a big production, but with that, at the same time, yes, you've got lots of toys to play with. There's more money, but at the same time, there's more pressure, and there's a
Right, right.
lot
Of
more
course.
people, creatives involved.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when we shot Street Trash, what was cool about that, I mean, Ryan and I have known each other for like something like 15, 20 years, and we've done lots of short films and music videos together and experimentals, and I also worked on Fried Barry for a day or two with him as well. And so, but Street Trash was his biggest production that he had worked on. We actually had other production companies who were helping him make this movie. So it was the first time, with Street Trash where for Ryan Kruger as well, where we went on to set to make an indie movie, but
Right.
we had like, I don't know, 80 crew members helping us actually make
Wow.
it. So
That's,
it was
I just
in
forget
our,
how I just forget how
huh?
much I sometimes I forget how many people take to make one thing happen. This is like an hour and a half movie, and it's like you have like 100 people like behind the scenes of just like ants just making the machine move, and just it's
It's
so crazy to me.
insane. It's insane. I mean, at one point, I mean, I actually turned to Ryan, our director, and I was like, "What is it like? What is it like having 80 people running to you every 3 minutes and asking you questions?
Chaotic.
Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this glass? What do you think about that cup? What do you think about this hat? What do you think about this costume? What do you think about this location? What do you think about this light? What do you think, And he was like, but Sean, I'm an indie filmmaker. I've been doing this for, 20, 30 years. And so
Yeah.
I've done every single one of their jobs. And
Oh, okay.
so when somebody comes to me, I know the answer already because I know what they do.
Right.
And that's, I mean, I'd love to direct myself one day. Well, no, I don't mean direct my, I'd love to direct something one day. But
Me too. Yeah.
but I think maybe, somebody like Ryan Kruger who sort of started at the bottom, went to film school and like sort of worked his way up and started, making his own short films and music videos. He's sort of, you know, learned along the way, what everybody does and how it all works. And um, where I'm more sort of, artistic and creative, and it's all about music and acting and the drama and the storytelling, where he sort of understands maybe more the sort of nuts and bolts. But ultimately, I think when it comes to filmmaking, it really is just surround yourself with the best people that you can get and let them get on with it.
Oh yeah.
That is the secret, I believe, to good filmmaking. Just hire the right people if you can get them.
You gotta have the right team. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is what I struggle with because I'm so like me, I'm very creative, like I write when I can. But I do want to start making my own shorts at some point. I
yeah.
just haven't got there yet, but I just bought a camera, so I'm like excited about it. I'm like, but I just got over being sick, so I'm trying to get back on the horse again, full time, and
Mm.
so I'm really excited about trying to, put on some horror stuff or even just like short stories or 5 to 15 minutes, just get them out there, put them online or whatever. But before we jump more into the street trash, I think Nick is actually gonna be coming back soon. Um,
Yeah,
I wanted to know because I know like you were on set of The Mummy,
yeah.
the remake of The Mummy,
Mm.
and it was just on the start of the beginning of the movie, right? Like
Yeah,
when they're
yeah.
yeah. So did he have any interactions with Russell
Tom
Crowe
Cruise
doing?
or Russ Crowe. No, no. What had happened was they'd essentially finished filming The Mummy.
Okay,
They'd gone all over the world and they'd shot The Mummy. And I got a call from my agent at the time, and she was like, they're doing some reshoots on The
okay,
Mummy. Would it's a small part. You're just playing this archaeologist, being interviewed by the BBC, whatever. Would you be interested in doing that? And I was like, you asking me if I'd like to be on a Tom Cruise, Russell Crowe movie, being directed by Alex Kurtzman? Yes, I would. And
yeah,
me
yeah,
being me, I mean, I went into the audition room and there was like two archaeologists being interviewed, and I said to the casting director, I can do both, and she was like,
right,
okay. And then they ended up just using me to be the only archaeologist. So, I mean, I only worked on that for a day with
okay,
Alex Kurtzman, which was it was quite a even though it was only a day on set, it was quite a crazy shoot. I think because it was a reshoot. And so I think they were looking for, some backstory, excuse me, sort of stuff. And so we maybe shot for, I don't know, 8 hours straight. That
okay.
interview scene, we did, yeah, 8 hours worth of variations of that. Just so that they had
It's a
every
long day.
single base covered, which was really, really hard because every single take. So like in one take, I'd be going, and they've discovered some tombs and the esophagus back in London. And then Alex would go, okay, this time talk about the temple and don't say London, say England and action. So then you'll go,
Okay.
and now if we look back at the whatever, the
Yeah.
pharaohs or the it was just it was crazy, but it was lots of fun. It was fun being a small part of like $160 million movie.
Yeah, yeah,
It was really, and yeah, I mean, I would have loved to obviously have met Mr. Cruz or Mr. Carell, but I know yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows and that, and some of them really small parts and others like really big parts.
yeah.
And for me, the one job leads to the next job, leads to the next job. To me,
Right.
it's like always serendipitous, and all of the stuff eventually makes sense. Um, and then I remember as a kid, I used to I used to send fan letters or postcards to famous movie stars and directors and people, and I'd like send them a postcard. Like, hi, it's Sean. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, and I'm your biggest fan. Please send me an autographed photograph.
Right.
And I like wrote to Clint Eastwood and sent him a postcard, and he sent me a photograph that he had signed for me.
Oh, okay.
And 20 years later, I walked onto set with Clint Eastwood to shoot
Oh, wow.
Invictus.
That's
So
so cool.
yeah.
We just met his distant cousin
Oh
last week.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
his
I saw something there on Instagram. Yeah.
yeah, so his side of the family lives in Kentucky.
Okay.
So we got to, and he makes his own, horror films and stuff like that. He has
Yeah.
his own production company. So he actually followed our account first, and I was like, huh, interesting. Like Jake Eastwood, like that's kind of crazy, like. So I'll just
Yeah.
keep an eye on it, whatever, and then most of the time I don't expect people to like message back because you know we're all busy, like we're all doing stuff, and whatever.
Yeah.
So that was really surprising even message back. I was like, oh shit, he's this is so cool. So we got to talk to him for an hour, whatnot. But so that was really cool too. That um to kind of talk to somebody on his lineage. Uh,
Oh yeah, I mean the industry, since COVID, the pandemic and the writer strike and the actor strike and the IATSE strike and the industry hasn't really completely recovered since all of that.
right.
And obviously with AI and everything, how where the industry is going right now, it's been really really crazy for everybody. For the last couple of years has been insane, and one thing that has been really, really incredibly helpful for all of us in the entertainment industry is getting together, having little meetings where we all get together, have a couple of drinks, or just chat. What are you up to? What do you think I should do? And this whole thing of just connecting as entertainment industry professionals, as artists,
Hmm.
just getting to talk to one another and realizing, but we all passionate, we all really give a shit, we all love what we're doing, we all
Yeah.
have dreams and passion. And then you were mentioning that you were busy writing and you want to maybe start doing some short films. And
Hmm.
I mean, as a writer myself, I mean it's so hard. It is so hard trying to tell yourself, okay, sit down in front of the laptop and just write it.
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, but I need to bullshit myself because I know that the chance of this ever being made, of ever being produced, is like one in a million,
Right. Right. Yeah.
But if you attack it from the angle of like, what the hell have you got to lose? Are you going to
Yeah.
regret not writing it? Are you going to regret not making it? And if you are, then just do it, write it, and so you can say, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the accomplishment in doing it, in writing it, and absolutely those short films. I mean, a buddy of mine, had directed a few short films and he spent a lot of money. He got his dad to give him a lot of money to buy some like really cool cameras and really
Mm.
cool toys to play with. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's shoot some short films like in the apartment. He was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no, 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 but I need crew. I need this. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You've got a camera. I'm an actor. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's shoot. And
It
that's
doesn't
why,
always require an entire team. Sometimes you can get it done yourself. And I actually talked to an actress a while back about this movie called Benny Loves You. It was on Prime. It was a horror film about a killer doll. And
yeah.
the guy that directed it, he only had maybe like three, like I think she said up to like five people on set. And he said he did everything himself. He did the directing, the editing, like audio, effects, like everything was like done by him. So it took him like 3 years to produce it and all that stuff. And I'm like if he can do it, he can do it. At some
Oh
point, but
man, I promise you, I mean it's crazy. I did a movie during the pandemic with a oh my goodness, what is he? Is he Serbian or Polish or something? And he reached out to me and he said, "Look, I know it's the pandemic, but I've written this short film and I've got one actor in Russia, another actor in Poland, and you're sitting in Cape Town, South Africa.
mm,
Um, I'll send you the script and I want you all to set up a camera and lights and sound and build your own little set in your home
mm,
and I will direct you, I'll direct the scene. So you're going to be filming it yourself, doing the sound, the lighting, everything, but I'll be directing you, via the laptop or whatever. And then you send me upload all the footage to me and I'll edit it together and put a short film. And that's exactly what he did. And he entered it into a couple of festivals. It's really, I promise you, and now as you can see, obviously, with things like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, the content that people are putting out there is insane.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I look at these guys and I go like, I don't know. I mean, I call myself an actor and I call myself an artist, but there's some really, really bright, clever people out there who are
Oh
doing
yeah.
the most amazing stuff. Just a buddies getting around with on their iPhone filming content, which is really, really good and clever and entertaining.
So real quick before I let you go, because I know, we've been chit-chatting for a little bit, but I wanted to know, like,
You can cut out all the political
we'll
army
see.
stuff.
It's interesting. People, like, want to know everyone's point of views. Um,
Yeah.
but so like while you guys were doing, well, because I know Ryan Coogler did Fried Berry first.
Mm.
And that was like his big like breakout, kind of
Mm.
production, and you were involved later on in the film with that, and also, so you guys all kind of worked together at first, and then you guys did Street Trash right after that.
Mm.
So did Ryan Coogler approach you and was like, "Hey, can you do the lead of Street Trash?" And then or did you just audition for it?
No, what had actually happened maybe 10 years ago, we shot a short film called The Time Travelers.
Okay.
I think it's on YouTube somewhere. It's actually a really, really cool short film set in an insane asylum with a character called Ronald who believes that he's a time traveler,
Mm.
a British character. And then when we shot Fried Barry 7 or 8 years after that, we brought back the Ronald character for Fried
Okay.
Barry.
Okay.
Um,
That was such a
and
funny character.
um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and the Fried Barry, virtually everything that you see in Fried Barry is unscripted.
Oh
So it's
wow.
all improv. The majority. I mean, Ryan gave us a very basic idea of what the scene would be about, but we kind of made up a lot of the dialogue
Okay.
ourselves.
That's so cool.
And so once again, it was I was kind of playing a similar character that I had played in Time Travelers. And so that
Okay.
when it came to Street Trash, it was like, okay, cool. This is a South African version of Ronald. He's not in an insane asylum, but he is homeless. And yeah, I mean, Ryan was very excited for me to play his first, lead in a feature film and
Yeah.
also his biggest film to date. So that was very, very exciting. I was in the States at the time, and it was maybe a year in like pre-prod before we actually got filming on Street Trash because there was a lot of moving parts, to get the film stock.
Yeah.
The making of the movie was insane. It was 26 shoot days, and maybe 18 of those were night shoots
Right.
in like minus whatever the heart of the dead of winter. It was a really, really hard shoot, but as it's also shooting on film, we could only do one or two takes, and all the film was being processed and or developed in the United Kingdom, so that'd be Korean.
Okay.
That say he would be filming and he would have no idea what he actually filmed or if
Oh
it would
wow.
actually make it. It
And
was crazy.
and
Yeah.
for like the effects on that, like none of that was CGI, right? I mean, that was all like, or it didn't
Um,
feel like it was CGI. It felt like you guys did like a lot of practical effects.
um, I would say, I mean, Ryan's the guy to answer that question, but I mean, 90, I would say 97% of everything that you see is in-camera effects.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so everything, so all the explosions, all the splatter, all the gore, all that was real. That
Okay.
was like
That's what I figured. Yeah.
that was like a tenth of the budget went into
Yeah.
that.
Of course. Yeah.
It was crazy. And yeah, time consuming. And but yeah, yeah, it was amazing. That stuff was yeah. I mean, I had to. I mean, when he said to me, we're going to do Street Trash, we're going to shoot it on film. We've actually got a little bit of money to make it, and I was like, okay, yeah, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
But it was yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I think it's also one of those movies. I don't know how many times you've watched it, but it's one of those movies like on a second watch or a third watch, you kind of pick up on different things. There's little
Right.
seeds, sort of little Easter eggs planted in there, and also lots of there's a lot of sort of paybacks or playbacks to the original movie. So if you watch the 1987 original, you will pick up on the homage that it's playing to the original.
Well, because I know the biggest link between the original and Ryan's version is the venom, which is used to kill the homeless
Yeah,
people. So that's why people say it's like a direct sequel because it's the same vial or whatever you want to call it, the
the
same
same sort of
poison.
concept. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think in the original movie, it was like a box of Venom or V alcohol bottles and
Right.
stuff
Right.
that they found hidden away somewhere. And this was given out to people, and then homeless people started exploding and dying, whatever. And in the South African version or the 2050 version, the year that it's set in, it's basically drones and a gas of V that they're
Right.
basically extinguishing the homeless with.
Well, weren't they
So
even doing it
yeah,
like in part of the food, like giving out food, and there was like some in there
yeah,
too? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So
exactly, yeah.
they're really trying
So
to get it in.
man, it was yeah, it was pretty crazy, and yeah, hopefully the world doesn't go that way.
Let's
But
hope not.
but it's I mean when we screened it in Los Angeles, a lot of the fans of the original were actually at the screening.
Oh, cool.
And so, because I was really curious to hear from them if a lot of the South African slang or humor actually landed with them, and they were like, "Yep, yeah, we got it. We got the humor." And but it's still a strange movie. I don't know how many times I've seen the movie. It's still an
I've seen it
odd
like
movie.
twice at least. Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
oh, actually, one more question before you go because I know this has been great. Don't get me wrong.
cool,
But
man.
or you filmed or maybe still filming a movie called Robot Dracula, if
Yeah.
I'm correct. Yeah. So I noticed there was like a handful of pro wrestlers in there, and I was wondering like if you were have you ever watched pro wrestling before? Did you even know who any of these guys were when you're on set?
No, not at all.
Okay.
What actually happened was, um, I don't know the whole story to Robot Dracula. I mean, all that I know is at the actual screening of Street Trash, the director and producer or one of the creators came up to me and they were like, we're getting a whole bunch of actors and celebrities and people to do a shout out
Oh,
to
okay.
say one or two lines, which we're going to use throughout the whole movie with like 100 different people. And so that
Okay.
was my only involvement in it. So,
Got it. Got it.
so you're going to catch me in the movie for 2 seconds in a
Okay.
movie that I have no idea what it's about. You say it's about pro wrestlers?
No, no, no. It's there's a bunch of pro
Oh,
wrestlers in the movie.
oh,
So I saw like
okay.
and they're like legends in the industry. So that's why I was curious. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
does he even know
wow.
who any of these guys are? It's just
No.
that was the question.
Man, it's
That's
it's there's nothing more exciting than meeting other filmmakers and they go like, do you want to be in my movie for like 2 seconds? It's like say this or do that or whatever. And
Yeah.
it is such a beautiful and certainly in South Africa, but definitely in the States, the love that indie filmmakers have for one another and how supportive they are of one another and really want to help
Mm.
one another is it's a beautiful thing. It really is what filmmaking should be. Um, and yeah, man. Thanks so much
I
for the
love this.
interview, man.
I love it. I love it all. Yeah. So, it was great to have you on here. I mean, I was so excited that you agreed to, Nick had to leave early. He lost connection and then he couldn't get back on. But,
That's cool,
and
man.
I'm a fan, so I was like, oh shit, we're getting fucking, we're getting Sean Cameron Michael. This is crazy. And so I'm very grateful that you jumped on and you just kind of talked about a couple of the, or a lot of the stuff that you've been on and even
Yeah.
some of the other stuff that we kind of touched on that we it just kind of fell through organically, which is amazing to me. So do you have
Cool, man.
anything you want to plug in before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. I mean, your sort of fan base and your audience. I mean, if they haven't seen Street Trash, I'd say, check it out. I
I've
think
been
it's still
telling
on
everybody.
Screenbox. Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah,
It's crazy. It's a wild, wild ride. And I think it's on, what is it on?
I
It's
think
on
it's on Prime too.
Tubi,
I
on
think it's on
Prime as
Prime.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people, if you want to watch something crazy,
Mhm.
get the popcorn, just have a good laugh, and maybe smoke something, and it'll be a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching it and I was like, this movie's awesome. It's that good. I was
It
like,
is so
I'm gonna
it
message him
is
right now.
it is so ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the support, man. It was lovely meeting you. And yeah,
Um,
good luck with your writing and your short films, man.
I hope I'm gonna do something with it at some point. But for those that are listening, we're signing off. You can find me on. I got two Instagram accounts, one for the podcast and one personal. The personal one's Kelly underscore DTO. The other one is Beyond the underscore Ether. And if you want to email the account for questions, if you want to talk shit to us, I don't care. It's boobcrew2025 at Gmail. Again, thanks for listening. Thanks for Sean jumping on, and it's been an amazing experience. Uh, we wish you the best and everything you do in the future. And we hope to
Oh,
see
thanks so
you.
much, man.
I'd love to see you in a comedic role. So it was a it was a it was a blast to see you, kind of do this thing. And I know you've done it all though. You've done like some like more action. You've done drama. You've done more serious stuff. Like it's so cool to see you jumping into a
Not
different
taking
character.
myself too seriously.
Yeah, yeah, it was nice. No, it was great. It was cool. But
Cool.
again,
Thanks so much, man.
yeah, thank you so much. We will be dropping this probably in the next couple weeks or maybe sooner.
Cool,
Um,
man.
all right. Have a good night.